Whoever wields this hammer, if he is worthy, will have the power of Thor. This is what the inscription of Mjölnir, the main weapon of the Norse God of Thunder, in the Marvel Universe says. Since his debut in 1962, Thor has been considered one of the most formidable figures in comics, thanks largely to the magical power and strength granted by his hammer. That doesn't mean, however, that he was the only one capable of lifting and using Mjölnir in battle in these nearly 55 years of stories, both in comics and on film. Therefore, we separate 12 characters considered worthy enough to lift the hammer. Number 12, we have Superman. During the JLA/Avengers storyline, the Avengers and the Justice League end up teaming up to fight the villainous Krona. To ensure victory was theirs, Thor lent his hammer, and Captain America also gave Superman his shield. Number 11, Deadpool. Is Deadpool worthy of lifting the hammer? Quite a fun image, that's right. The chatty mercenary once wielded Mjölnir, or something close to it. In fact, Loki forges an Asgardian hammer especially for Deadpool, pretending to be the original Mjölnir. The fact happened in issue 37 of the Anti-Hero comics, released in 1997. Number 10, we have Captain America. It seems fitting that Thor's teammate I could take the hammer for a spin. This has happened a few times. The first time Cap wielded Mjölnir was in Thor 390, when Steve was operating under the codename just Captain. He and Thor were attacked by soldiers of Set, the Egyptian god of death, and while Thor was getting the worst of it, the captain had to think of a way to turn the tide in their favor. Then, seeing no other move to make, he reached for Mjölnir and, for the first time, raised the hammer to defeat Set's henchmen. Another emblematic moment happened in the Essence of Fear saga, where he lifted Mjölnir with the cry of "Forward Avengers." Number 9, Jane Foster. At one point, Thor's love interest, Jane Foster. He was able to lift the hammer and become his own version of Thor. When Thor became unworthy, the mighty Mjölnir remained on the moon until a mysterious woman appeared and claimed the hammer. After fighting alongside this mysterious new Thor. This new Thor, as revealed later, was secretly Thor's ex-girlfriend, Jane Foster, and she wielded the hammer for quite some time before passing it back to Odin's son. Number 8, Hulk. Another Avenger teammate had a chance with the hammer, albeit very briefly, in Avengers Edition 3. To determine who was organically stronger between Thor and the Hulk, Thor asks Odin to lift the hammer's enchantment for 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, the Hulk caught of the hammer and was feeling very smug about his newfound discovery. Number 7, Silver Surfer. It's no surprise to anyone that the Silver Surfer is worthy. But it remained to be seen in practice, with regard to Mjölnir. A few years ago, Thanos Comics featured a storyline titled Thanos Wins, where Thanos, wins, an alternate version of him at least. The Silver Surfer is one of the few living creatures who can still challenge him, and in a last desperate attempt to stop Thanos, he takes Thor's hammer and attacks the Mad Titan in an epic final battle. Unfortunately, even that isn't enough, and the Surfer is defeated. Even so, it was glorious to see Norrin finally confirm that he is indeed worthy of Mjölnir. Number 6, Wonder Woman. JLA/Avengers wasn't the first crossover between DC and Marvel, although it's the best. The previous attempt was aptly titled DC vs. Marvel, where, during a fight with Shazam, Thor ends up dropping Mjölnir. His hammer then lands right at Wonder Woman's feet and, needless to say, she's worthy, right? And when given the chance to use Mjölnir to win her fight with Storm, Wonder Woman showed how worthy she was, choosing not to use it, as such an unfair advantage would dishonor her opponent and her fight. While it's an admirable act, Wonder Woman takes a beating from Storm. Better to have used the damn hammer. Number 5, Vision. We cannot leave out of this list the Viseo, lived in theaters by Paul Bettany. The fact occurred in Avengers, Age of Ultron, 2015, when the superhero team was in disbelief of its potential. Some say that the synthezoid was able to lift Mjölnir because he wasn't human, and others believe that the character's purity and good intentions made him worthy. Number 4, Conan. Still in the What If comics, which retrace important comic book events from alternative perspectives, Thor becomes Conan's ally. During a battle, the God of Thunder is seriously injured, and decides to hand over Mjölnir to the barbarian. In possession of the hammer, he wins the fight and saves the Asgardian. Number 3, Beta Ray Bill is a monstrous Corbinite alien who was the first non-Asgardian to be deemed worthy of wielding Mjölnir. And he lifted the hammer after simply defeating Thor in a fight. After this confrontation and for having shown himself worthy to lift the hammer, Odin determined that Bill should fight Thor for the right to wield Mjölnir from then on. Bill also won that fight, barely, but he refused to allow Thor to die. After rescinding his claim to Mjölnir, Odin gave Bill the Stormbreaker, a hammer with power on par with Mjölnir, solidifying the bond between Bill and Thor as brothers in arms. Number 2, Rogue series, What If? It is generally a way for screenwriters and designers to work on more atypical ideas. I end the story. Thor dies after being drained of his powers, but his spirit guides Rogue not to be deceived by Loki's plans and assume his role in the pantheon of Asgard. Number 1, Eric Masterson. One of the mortals given Thor's power was Eric Masterson, an architect Odin chose to possess Thor's essence for a time. While this had dire consequences for Masterson's life, such as losing custody of his son, it also gave him incredible power. As Thor's understudy for a period in the late 80s and early 90s, Masterson was worthy of Mjölnir. When Thor returned to his post, Masterson was given his own Thunderstrike weapon, which also became his codename. So these were the main heroes who can lift the Thor hammer. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another nerdy list.